On behalf of Revolution Books, I want to welcome all of the poets. Really, yes. And all of the rest of you, dear audience, to Revolution Books. Here, the search for the truth meets the poetic spirit with authors, books, film, and performance. Here you find the most radical revolution in the work and leadership of Bob Avakian, who has developed the new communism aimed at the emancipation of humanity. A revolution to overthrow this system and create a society and world in which human beings can truly flourish and the imagination can soar. Now, 1 year ago, Iran's morality police murdered Mahsa, Jina, Amini. 1 year ago, women rose up in fury. Soon they were joined by men, and the streets resounded: woman, life, freedom. Death to the dictator, neither Shah nor Ayatollah. The theocratic regime has hit back with clubs and bullets and arrests and torture. And social media is filled with the images of women after women wearing their eye patches. Women who were shot in the face when they dared to protest. Wearing their eye patches with defiance and pride. And funerals have become marches and protests. And we witness the courage and the resistance of Kurdish people, of Baluchis, young and old. Tens of thousands marching, dancing for days and months, battering at the core pillar of the Islamic Republic's rule, the patriarchal suppression of women. So this is from today's New York Times, surprisingly enough, and it reflects both the viciousness and the desperation of the regime on this anniversary. It says, on Saturday, security agents swarmed the neighborhood of Miss Amini's family home and prevented her parents from attending a commemoration they had planned at her gravesite. Her father was briefly detained for interrogation and released on Friday, according to the family's lawyer. To prevent further visitors from visiting Miss Amini's grave, the authorities imposed checkpoints along the road to the cemetery and intentionally opened a nearby dam to flood it. Oh. So this struggle is not over. Great challenges lie ahead. And we here are opposed both to the Islamic Republic of Iran, and at the same time we oppose any moves toward war against Iran by the US. Neither the US nor the Islamist theocrats should be supported. Both must be opposed. We at Rev Books wholeheartedly support the Uprising, and we think it is extremely positive, precious, and favorable for the people of Iran and for the world at such a time that there exists a Communist Party of Iran, Marxist-Leninist Maoists, and the new communism of Bob Avakian, a deep analysis of how the oppression of women is interwoven into the capitalist imperialist system, and how the struggle for the liberation of women and against all forms of patriarchal oppression is a driving force for revolution of central importance before, during, and after the revolution. And it is with great enthusiasm and very fitting that we mark this anniversary with poetry. This poetry, art, music is essential to society, especially to the revolutionary society that we are a part of struggling to bring about. So now I want to introduce to you D.L. Lang, who is the former poet laureate of Vallejo and the author of 14 poetry books, some of which we have back here. Welcome, D.L.
Thank you. I'm honored to read for such an important cause. My poem is entitled Morality Police and Oxymoron. There simply is no justice in a system that tortures people into false confessions and assigns biased lawyers in kangaroo courts where couples dancing and women's clothing constitute society's most egregious crimes. but those who torture, beat, and murder citizens are seen as walking upon some holy line. When citizens rebel against unjust man-made laws, only to be met with brutal force and repression, but the state can kill you for crossing an invisible God, there is no morality, only deafening hypocrisy. When those who cry out for freedom are mislabeled as the terrorists by a violent theocratic state, arresting musicians for protest songs, locking up poets for the truths that they profess, jailing reporters for bravely bearing witness, the state does not stand on moral ground. When protesting citizens are being put to death for committing vandalism or thought crimes, property destruction, or lighting fires, blocking streets, or fighting police brutality, the state has lost any claim to morality. When universal ideals of mercy and forgiveness expressed in religious texts are ignored in favor of justifying continued oppression, while the powerful rob the people of their freedom and their lives, then it is well past time for change to arise. Tradition equals tyranny when it is not chosen freely. Free the people once and for all from this unholy alliance of patriarchy, monarchy, and theocracy. Disband the morality police. Every citizen must be released. Thank you very much.
Our next poet is Steve Rude. Steve is a lawyer, a practicing attorney, and a poet.
Whoa. Wait a minute, sorry. That was, I shouldn't have said that, but it's okay. I'm just going to do this. How's that sound for now? Okay, it's cool. This is an important evening, and it's important. Here we go. That's all right. Don't sweat. These are important issues. Duct tape wins the day. What is it? Oh, gaff tape. Gaff tape wins the day. Okay. I just want to say I'm really, really honored to be at Revolution Books. That Reiko and Larry Felsen put this reading together. It's really a joy and an honor and a duty to be here. One poem. It's called Effort at Speech. It's after a poem by Muriel Rukeyser, who was a beautiful, extraordinary American poet. Effort at Speech. Your Kurdish name was Jina Amini. Speak to me. Where are you now? You were a young woman killed by small men. I'm a lawyer in America. My Hebrew name is Chaim Shia. I will tell you all. I will conceal nothing. When I was a boy, I heard a voice. It said I was confused, ugly, alone. It also told me I could layer my pain between leaves of wind. I vomited in secret for 20 years. I was mute. No one heard. Do you know that women are loosing their hair in your name, showing their full faces in your name? I am lonely. Where are you now? Tell me about your town, family, foods. I will tell you about hiding behind my face for 50 years. Do you know that women are becoming themselves in your name? Where are you now? You are here, a tree twisting from the rubble, blossoming, every part of you there for all to see in the afternoon light, but not in danger anymore for that. You are taking up your beautiful shape and offering it to us, not needing to hide your freshness. Out of silence, poetry speaks, and you are speaking.
Thank you. Our next poet is Marcia Falk, a writer, a poet, and painter. Please welcome her.
Is this in the right position? Can you hear me? Thank you. This is my first time at Revolution Books, and even though I've heard about it for many years from that guy over there who just read and from Larry, but I don't get out much, and I couldn't stay away because I've been, like most of you, I've been following Mahsa Amini's story, and it's just infuriating and heartbreaking. So I'm going to read two short poems. The first one's called Men Saving the World. And it's based on an Associated Press article from 2002. Things don't change that much, it seems. Men Saving the World. We are looking for more places to bomb. It's been exactly 100 days since we began. Not yet enough. I should have told you that the date was of this piece of the article was January 15th, 2002. So it's 100 days since we started bombing Afghanistan. We're looking for more places to bomb. It's been exactly 100 days since we began. Not yet enough. Where shall it be today? There is a hut near a cave across the mountain where a woman lives with her 6 children. Her husband disappeared a year ago to follow his dream of saving the world by blowing it up. How shall we save the woman from her husband so that he will not find her if he returns, blood overflowing his pockets, leaking from the folds of his robe? There was once a school for boys and girls in the village 2 miles from the woman's hut. We bombed it to bits a month ago. We must make certain that the husband does not return there to build another school, this one for boys only, where he will teach his dreams to the next generation. Let us bomb the road leading to the spot where the school used to be. The woman's youngest is crying. He is 13 months old and he is thirsty. She has no milk to give him from her breast and no fresh water either. There was a well once, half a mile from the woman's hut. Let us now bomb the hut where the baby is crying so the baby doesn't grow to be a man hungry, thirsty for blood. In the name of all that is right and good, let us seek new targets today. This one is based on 2 photographs by a woman photographer, Kiana, I hope I'm spelling her name right, pronouncing it right, Kiana Hayeri, and it was in the New York Times Magazine under the heading, I documented Afghans post-9/11 youth. So this is 2 of her photographs. The first one, they lie on their sides, facing each other, leaning in, forehead barely touching the other's forehead, in the narrow, iron-framed bed. 2 boys, 14, maybe 15 years old. You can only see this much of them, their bodies bundled under the blanket, pulled tight around their chests. And the second photograph, they're standing on sand, baked rock hard in the middle of an empty field, holding hands. The shadows at their feet sharply outlined on the sun-whitened ground. One of them wears a surgical mask because there is a threat in the air, although no one else is nearby. The caption reads, June 22nd, 2021, Migrant Center, Herat. Where is this place whose name is an anagram for heart? Who are these children migrating, not like birds crossing the skies between home and home, but creatures caught between nowhere and nowhere, 14, maybe 15 years into their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Our next poet is Lucille Lang Day, and she is a poet, of course, a writer, and publisher of Scarlet Tanager Books. Please welcome her. She did it.
Thank you, Rico, and I'm very happy to take part in this important reading. I'm going to read two poems about the resilience of women. The first one is called Nakusa Renames Herself, and it starts with an epigraph. More than 200 Indian girls whose names mean unwanted in Hindi have chosen new names for a fresh start in life. Associated Press, October 22nd, 2011. When I slid from my mother's womb, the fourth daughter, my father hung his head, then stormed from the house. My grandfather wept. My parents could not afford another child. There'd be no son to bring home a dowry or care for them when their vision dimmed. Call the girl Nakusa, grandfather said. For 15 years, I answered to that name, unwanted. But today, I put on new barrettes and considered my choices. Should I be Aishwarya, like the movie star? Savitri, savior of her husband's life, named after a god? Vaishali, prosperous, beautiful, and good. No, these 15 years I've grown too tough for any common woman's name. Flowers, birds, and virtues can't portray me. My name is now Ashmita, rock hard. And the next one is called During the Holy War, and it also starts with an epigraph. We all waited on an afterlife, only I planned to be alive for mine. That's Amanda Lindhout on being kidnapped in Somalia. And I wrote this poem after reading her memoir. A woman taken prisoner is locked in a dark room and forbidden to lie on her back or sit up. Even eating, she must lie on her side, head propped on one elbow. Heavy chains bind her ankles, even while she sleeps. When the boys with AK-47s come to rape her, she must not cry out. Becoming someone else, she watches from the ceiling when they beat her. White fungus grows on her skin, spreading across her face, neck, and shoulders. She listens while the boys play jihad videos over and over on their cell phones. Again, a restaurant blows up, the Twin Towers fall. Their religion bans music and games. They have nothing to do but abuse her and try to reach paradise. Her stomach aches when she eats rancid food, but she must eat to live, so she does. Her teeth, knocked loose by beatings, become abscessed. The captor who says he will marry her and keep her forever in a house with his mother and other wives in a larger, lighter room is no consolation. She tries to remember the sky feathered with gold, the sun sliding into the sea, her mother's smile, the buttery taste of salmon, the scent of fresh strawberries. When a small brown warbler visits her room, She listens to its slow ringing trill and knows that somewhere the world still exists and her freedom waits. And she did make it to freedom.
Thank you. We're going to play another short song. This is by Mina Daris, who, like Mehdi Yarahi, is Arab Iranian, and she's singing in Arabic to Mehdi after that song that we played at the beginning was released and after his arrest.
بس من النوم يا شعبي بس من النوم تحزموا قوم بشهامة تحزموا قوم بس من النوم يا شعبي بس من النوم تحزموا قوم بشهامة تحزموا قوم اليوم يوم الملحمة وصرخة الأحرار ساحة الثورة بوطننا تريد ثوار انزع نجوم المذلة وعيشة العار خلي كل الدنيا تسمع هاي العلوم بس من النوم يا شعبي بس من النوم تحزموا قوم بشهامة تحزموا قوم.
Next, I'd like to bring up Sophia Bazzini Barakat, who's a freshman poet at UC Berkeley. And she is a Persian Guatemalan background.
All right, hello. This poem is written by Sepideh Kholian. So she's a Persian activist. She was arrested at 23 years old for her support of striking sugarcane workers. She has been a vocal advocate for gender equality and women's rights in Iran, where it's no secret that such issues are contentious. She wrote this poem for the singer Mehdi Yarahi from behind prison walls. Mehdi Yarahi, as you know, recently wrote a song translated to Your Headscarf. So as a tribute to the 1-year anniversary of Mahsa Amini, there's strength in that of many others to speak out against the government, continue to empower this movement. And then this poem is entitled, I Have Lived My Life to the Sound of Your Voice. Okay. You could have sided with the powers that be, been an ambassador for the ruling class, gone on European tours, given dazzling performances, feasted at banquets, led a colorful life. But you decided to stand on the other side. Though you knew it could cost you, you became the voice of an Arab woman in Khuzestan, the voice of Sepideh Rashnu, who resisted the forced hijab, the voice of Tumaj, of workers, prisoners, and of all those who are born in poverty and pain. I have lived my life to the sound of your voice. Mehdi Yarahi, I have walked all of Khuzestan, which is my soul, to the sound of your voice. During the floods and in Sepidar prison, we danced to your songs and stood up together. I saw how you live in the people's hearts. The same people who, like you, are accused of being secessionists by ruling dictators and would-be dictators. The people have learned from you, Mehdi, from your simplicity and wholeheartedness. They worry for you because they know you are unique and extraordinary. I have lived my life to the sound of your voice. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Next, I'd like to bring up as the co-hosts of and co-sponsors, co-organizers of this event is Tika from the IEC, the emergency campaign, the international emergency campaign to free all Iran's political prisoners now. Please welcome Tika.
Hi, everybody. It's good to see you all here. I'm here to represent for the International Emergency Campaign to free Iran's political prisoners now. I asked to have our website put up there because if you do not know much about what's going on in depth in Iran and the heroic, truly heroic role that the political prisoners, many of them who were outside a week ago, who are inside now, are playing. Please, it's you can see it on this, and I'll give it to you when you leave. So this is what I want to say about the emergency campaign. Our goal is nothing less than actually freeing Iran's political prisoners. We aim to grow a global grassroots outcry against the Islamic Republic's brutal, illegitimate treatment of its political prisoners. Also, we spotlight the inspiring example of the prisoners' courageous resistance that the world saw in the Women Life Freedom Uprising. We are building a broad, diverse wave of condemnation of the Islamic Republic of Iran's misogynist and vile repression, including the executions. Along with our dear supporters in Colombia and many others around the world, we call on everyone who cares about justice to join this movement to force the IRI to release the prisoners, and at the same time giving heart to the prisoners, their loved ones, and millions of Iranians. Our emergency appeal is firm and clear in its condemnation of the U.S. war threats and intervention. The campaign's emergency appeal makes clear that we proceed from the interests of humanity, not the interests of either the Iranian or the U.S. government. And here's I'm just going to read a little section from the emergency appeal itself, which is on the table outside, and I hope all of you sign if you have not yet. The governments of the U.S. and Iran act from their national interests, and we, the people of the U.S. and Iran, along with the people of the world, have our shared interests as part of getting to a better world. To unite to defend the political prisoners of Iran, to unite to defend the political prisoners of Iran as part of getting to a better world. In the U.S., we have a special responsibility to unite very broadly against this vile repression by the IRI and to actively oppose any war moves by the U.S. government that would bring even more unbearable suffering to the people of Iran. And if you wonder why we have a special responsibility, check out the movie Coup 53, where the U.S. acted to overthrow the government of Iran in 1953. Our emergency appeal makes clear we demand that Iran's Islamic Republic free all political prisoners now. And we say to the U.S. government, no threats or war moves against Iran, lift U.S. sanctions.
Thank you. This website is very, very beautiful and very, very full of different articles, and I really encourage everybody to check it out. One of the advocates and signatories to this appeal that Tika was talking about is the writer Ariel Dorfman, and I wanted to ask Larry Felsen if he would read a poem that Ariel Dorfman wrote.
I was going to read a statement that he wrote upon signing the appeal. And if people don't know Ariel Dorfman, you know, was the cultural advisor to Salvador Allende during the 1973 coup in Chile. And he, went into exile. And he has since become, internationally known as a writer and a social activist. Many people know him, but I thought I would mention that. It's along with, signed this along with 5,000 other people. So this is the statement he wrote upon signing the appeal. Good-hearted people are constantly being bombarded with so many requests to sign petitions about important issues that it is natural that they should feel overwhelmed, asking themselves, what good will it do? Wondering how one signature can possibly make a difference. If I have signed on to the emergency campaign to free political prisoners in Iran, it is because I know that this initiative will effectively call attention to the situation of men and women in that country who, if enough pressure is brought to bear on its leaders, could tomorrow be liberated from the terrible conditions and extraordinary injustice. And even if those leaders do not listen, I am convinced from personal experience that the prisoners themselves are given strength to survive and persevere. They are listening. They know others far away care what happens to them, and we should not let them down. And then I'm going to read a poem which Ariel Dorfman wrote, and it's actually it refers to a friend of his during the regime in Chile. Experience of a friend in Chile. Hope. My son has been missing since May 8th of last year. They took him just for a few hours. They said just for some routine questioning. After the car left, the car with no license plate, we couldn't find out anything else about him. But now things have changed. We heard from a compañero who just got out that 5 months later, they were torturing him in Villa Grimaldi. At the end of September, they were questioning him in the red house that belonged to the Grimaldis. They say they recognized his voice, his screams, they say. Somebody tell me, frankly, what times are these? What kind of world? What country? What I'm asking is, how can it be that a father's joy, a mother's joy, is knowing that they are still torturing their son, which means that he was alive 5 months later. And our greatest hope will be to find out next year that they're still torturing him 8 months later, and he could still be alive.
Thank you. Thank you. Heavy poem. Our next poet is Kim Shak. Now, Kim is a former poet laureate of San Francisco, and she hosts poetry clinics in the city's schools and the libraries. Her most recent book of poetry is Exile Heart. Exile Heart. Oh, just yank the microphone down a little bit for you.
I do this every week. Don't worry about me and the microphone. What we need to worry about is my voice. I read for 2 hours yesterday, and I just read in Petaluma, so I'm a little bit huskier than normal. I could probably pull off singing Edith Piaf at this point. I have 2 incredibly short poems for you. The first one is from Avash Sabet. You had to be your own timekeeping. A poem, another poem, the rope that connected us, woman and woman. The relentless light bulb, priceless scraps of paper offered to pockets, to handbags of visitors, as if they were your own hungry mouth, and hers, and someone else's. Word by word, until that light, that dust, that malice peeled back and left you standing, shaky, back in the world, but with all of the maps spun, but one hand still tangled in your poems. And I wrote this one for the first one of these events that I ever attended. And by the way, the next poem jam at the main library, which will be the second Thursday of October, is on the very same subject. There was a poet here, and we never got to hear her work because her hair unbound, uncovered, was a capital offense, and they beat her to death. What remains are her clear and brilliant thoughts, heard in silence, and our own hearts chanting a rhythmic, no more, no more, no more. Bury me with the standing women, the dancing women, if not free, then a step for someone's eventual freedom. Bury me with my hair unbraided. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next poet is Raymond Nat Turner. And I was surprised to find out that Raymond Nat Turner was part of the same protests of when I first met the Iranian students. These long protests of thousands of people marching through San Francisco saying Maghba Shah, that were like 10 blocks long and 10 hours long, it seemed like. Raymond is the artistic director of the jazz poetry ensemble Upsurge, and poet in residence at Black Agenda Report, and featured on Fridays on KPFA's Talkies, which is where I heard him on Friday. Please welcome Raymond.
Heard it, heard it, heard it, heard it, heard it. This piece is called Hair in the Game. Heard it. Stench of burning hijabs, rhythms of swishing scissors, shearing sable curls, wavy brown manes, straight tresses, salt and pepper, and locks of sundry shades of gray and white. Harmonizing shouts of death to the dictator morph from cries for equal rights. Exploding in Red Sea streets. Iranians are rising again. Rising in movements, maybe a flashback, 1909. Maybe a Mossadegh moment, maybe more. Maybe this is it. Maybe the next time. Some of us remember Iranian demonstrations circa late 70s. Brilliant, militant feats of flesh and blood engineering. Young and strong, marching all night long through twists and turns. Marching all night long through twists and turns, playing cat and mouse, in and out, cul-de-sac traps set by San Francisco's political police. Truncheon thugs whose hand-eye coordination with the Shah's Savak intelligence tentacles reach from icy fog. Some of us remember marchers named Farouz, Mansour, Mahdi, Assad. Remember, they spoke English, yet read Germans in Farsi. Some of us remember standing in solidarity as the Peacock throne imploded, collapsed, under weight of street heat, fire, millions of feet in the street. Some of us remember rapture of our comrades and friends rushing home, rejoicing, and never to be heard from again. Today, we stand in solidarity with women having hair in the game. Women marching through mushroom clouds of tear gas, tsunamis of lead, red seas of death. Women resisting misogynist mullahs, murderous morality police to topple theocratic thugs swaddled in robes of graft. Today, we stand in solidarity. Heart, soul, spine, solidarity with common people. Mothers, daughters, sisters, wives of warehouse workers, bus and truck drivers, train operators, fierce fighters, once again on the long, winding road of revolution, lubricated by oil workers throwing themselves into swelling resistance, and martyred Mahsa Amini's The Rock of Gibraltar, bloodthirsty clerics lifted to drop on their own scarlet sandals, instructing us on how to take on our own Texas Taliban, Florida fundamentalists. Thank you.
And now, before the next poet, I would like to play an audio that we just received. It's the English translation of a declaration of 7 groups issued yesterday, September 16. It's been signed by more than 200 people, including workers, doctors, lawyers, journalists, human rights activists, civil activists, women's rights activists, and labor activists. There's a list of organizations to it that includes the Afghan Revolutionary Grouping Move for Change, Bread and Roses, an organization and publication that grew out of the women's movement in Turkey, Ocean Rebellion, the voice of women's rebellion to express determination to serve struggle against the Islamic Republic, Baluch Women's Movement, Youth in Exile, Burn the Cage, a movement in Europe to free Iran's political prisoners, and made up of friends and supporters and relatives of the political prisoners, and lastly, Afghan Women's Study Academy. Please play the message. Thank you.
We do not tolerate that the Islamic Republic still remains in power after 45 years and condemns women to compulsory hijab, Sharia laws, and religious patriarchy. We do not tolerate that the fascist Taliban government has reduced women to the point of slavery and that women and girls commit suicide every day out of desperation, while the 20 years of the American Republic there was also a pain and suffering for the majority of Afghanistan's women. We do not tolerate political Islam in Turkey to impose Sharia laws on women and Erdogan's use of nationalism and religion to suppress people and strengthen the foundations of fascism. We do not tolerate that in Iran our Kurds, Baluch, Arabs, Lurs, and Afghanistani people remains under national oppression while only the place of Shah and Sheikh has changed. We do not tolerate that in Afghanistan, our Hazara, Baluch, and Turk people remain under national oppression, while Mujahids, Taliban, and NATO were changing their places in power. We do not tolerate that due to poverty, unemployment, war, destruction of the environment, and the economy under domination of capitalism, imperialism, our people in the global south are forced to immigrate, who are either killed on the way, sexually assaulted, or humiliated and subjected to racism at their destination. We will not tolerate our people in Ukraine becomes the victim of imperialist wars, and the shadow of nuclear war is over all of us. We will not tolerate fascism in Europe, United States, and Israel to attack women and LGBTQAI+. We do not tolerate religious superstition to dominate scientific and creative thinking in order to bring cohesion to the torn apart society. We will not tolerate that they imprison dissidents, fighters, and freedom seekers everywhere and bury the revolution, the only possibility for the people to get rid of this situation. We are all the oppressed people of the world, and on the anniversary of the unique uprising of Jina, which beat like the heartbeat of the world in Iran, we intend to use everything we have learned to clear the way to overthrow the Islamic Republic, patriarchy, and the system of domination. Jina's uprising passed the red line and targeted the heart of the Islamic Republic, which is its misogynistic Islamic ideology, by the struggle against the compulsory hijab. This forced all groups and individuals in Iran and around the world, from artists and athletes to workers, to take a stand and announce their position. By showing the potential of women, Jina's uprising encouraged the people of the world and even put the possibility of revolution in front of non-believers. It made the power of the world to mobilize and to try to contain it within the framework of the profit-oriented system and thoughts produced by it. However, there is one reality and necessity in front of us, and it is that despite the importance and influence of Jina uprising, the Islamic Republic is still on its feet. We have to show people this serious reality and also that we are serious about overthrowing it. With all the brave struggles that took place, it should not be expected that the next waves of people uprising will gradually and spontaneously become more radical and eventually lead to a revolution. Revolution means overthrowing this regime with the aim of eradicating all these crimes. The revolution and a movement for the revolution must be built from today. The issue of compulsory hijab is still decisive in people's struggle against the government. This means that we need to challenge the mandatory hijab as much as possible, and in this way, the laws of Sharia and the Islamic Republic as a whole in the society. The uprising of Jina turned people's eyes toward the opposition of the Islamic Republic. Unfounded alliances were formed and meaningless divisions happened, which fueled both illusions and discouragement. What makes the people strong against the Islamic Republic is neither such alliances nor such divisions. The real alignments of the opposition should be clarified for the people based on whether the society they will build will be the continuation of oppression, exploitation, and repression in a class society or its abolition. This fact puts the necessity of fueling the debate about alternatives before the activists. The global capitalist system has put humanity in a state of emergency, but it has also provided the basis for our unity. We, the anti-war fighters, today against the proxy war between the imperialists of Russia and NATO, anti-environmental destruction, anti-patriarchy, anti-government repression, and prisons all over the world, from Iran, Afghanistan, and Turkey to United States. We are the ones against Islamic fundamentalist regimes and political Islam in Middle East, especially in Iran, Afghanistan, and Turkey, and against the totality of capitalist imperialist system that has created all these problems. We have a common struggle to mobilize for building a new world. Our perspective is internationalist because we are a single body, and every struggle we have in every corner of the world is a struggle on the stage of the world and not limited to its borders.
I'd like to welcome Zara Jamshed up. Yes. An American poet living here in the East Bay. Their debut poetry collection is currently available for pre-order called Neither Created Nor Destroyed. How about another hand?
Thank you so much for having me. I have 2 poems for you all today. This first one was written after the Christchurch massacre in New Zealand. It's just called After Christchurch. I sit on the floor of the masjid for Jummah. My colleague holds her palm in mine, her thumb rocking gently across the topography of my hand. She pauses, catches a tear in the trail of her scarf. I do not watch as it sinks into the mustard yellow tassels, leaks into the fabric, and makes a home between the stitches. Someone asks, what is the world coming to? It has always been coming, barreling down train tracks, sparks screeching, an airstrike droning on its way home. We have practiced this exercise in running while mourning. It is not a drill, even if we are always rehearsing. Maybe this is why she does not stop rubbing her thumb up and down across my skin, as if this is the only way she can hold me and herself, like comfort is only there in movement. And the second poem I'm going to read is called The Beaches We Build. It's a love letter to women and oppressed genders. We, children of the third culture, reach across continents, boil the lost river water into tea, purify in the steam of all that descends from ocean. We build siblings out of dances, hold the surety of the wolf pack in the pounding of our feet, the sways of our hips, the singing loud in the cathedrals of our rib cages. We photosynthesize in the high sun, our brown skin glistening from the water at our feet. Down at the shore, we take turns birthing ourselves. No one asks us where we are really from. We are really from outer space, from the bluest void, from the smell of smoke when the fire is going out. We are your uncle's deepest shame. Your grandma turns in her grave knowing there wasn't space for us while she was here. We butcher the language like an animal, pray over the bones, tear through the heart of the lifeline. We pronounce our own names wrong, giggling during the prayer. We chew with our mouths open, carve protection spells into each other's spines. Our skirts are too short. We stay out too late. We make music out of all our alphabets, tongues sharp, know how to turn scraps into what feels like wholeness. If it storms, we are shelter. We call each other home. Thank you.
Nice. Our next poet is Rusty Morrison. She's a poet, writer, and founder of Omnidom Press. Her latest book, Risk, will be published in the spring of 2024.
Hi, everybody. I can't express the feeling I have of being here with these wonderful writers, Reiko and Larry, and everyone who does everything to keep this Revolution bookstore alive, which, you know, I've been coming here since I'm 67, and when I moved to Berkeley, it was here, and it's still fucking here. Yeah. And I can feel this cohesiveness in this room that despite the horrors I've been hearing, which are expressed with such lyric agency and power, there is something we can do. We can be here. I feel that cohesion, and I am so grateful that this is happening tonight, because I've been feeling pretty dark about fucking everything. There's fucking twice. Okay. And so, thank you. I'm going to, I have a very short two-part poem that I wrote, but I want to start with an excerpt from a very long poem by Farrokh Saad, who is a Persian-Iranian poet, an influential feminist film director and writer who died in a car accident in '67. She was incredibly controversial before she died, and her work has been demonized since, and nonetheless, she's published and translated and well worth looking up. The poem is from a book published by New Directions. In translation, it is called Let Us Believe in the Beginning of the Cold Season. And I am this, a woman, alone, at the threshold of a cold season, beginning to understand the polluted existence of this earth and the sky's simple despair, and the powerlessness of these cement hands that we all have. Time passes. Today is the winter solstice. I know the season's mystery and understand each moment as if it were a word. In the street, the wind is blowing, and I am thinking about the flowers, how they mate, about buds on their thin, anemic legs. They are exhausted. It is a tubercular time, and yet they thrive. At the threshold of a cold season, among the mirrors gathered in mourning, here are the huddled, the grieving and pale, and this sunset is pregnant with the knowledge of truth, even in its silence. It's incredible. Well worth looking into that book. So I have a short poem, two parts. One, a window in the wall. Water floods the passageway each morning and night, a coffin of wind to hide their story in. Air currents cross the globe. Some birds still know how to ride them. Many birds die. The endangered Siberian crane, which migrates out of Iran, will carry in its eyes so many women like you. You are a citizen of data, recorded and stored in a tomb. History buries regret under the redrawn maps of this latest civilization and then builds its new roads. The asphalt will swallow anyone, any woman who stumbles. The unbirthed tongue that can carry this story has not yet been cut from the gestating child's mouth. Not yet. A wall in the window. Morning light contaminates the city's water with its terror. What has been exposed? Do not drink from that passageway, you will drown. A story of wind to hide your coffin in. The globe crosses the solar system on gravity's current. The ghost of extinct birds and the ghost of women who scattered seed for them when they could are still migrating across the sky of Iran. Like so many choking mornings, those of you still alive carry their remains in your hands. 2. I read of you from a world away. The story, however well reported, however filled with rancor at the horror, is just language. It is just my foreign tongue forcing more distance between us. The day is shrouded in fog here in Richmond. The facts of your death hang hidden in the clouds. I drive to the store. I buy bread. No one stops me. No one will put me in prison for driving a car. This no one who cannot harm me hangs a bloody flag over your sky. This no one asphyxiates every woman it can. You are thin now as thread, but young women will use you. They will sew you into their eyelids to hold them open. Those who are willing to die for the right to work, to drive, to show their faces, their hair, if they choose to. The thread may be made of dead muscle and crushed bone, but it can be woven by them, and it will be spun.
Thank you. Here's a button of Farouk.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's great.
So I was very moved by what you said about the bookstore as well. You know, this is a special place. This is a place that's been kept alive by volunteers for all of these years. This is a place where people have jobs and they do extra, right? And we take the books out to the people too. And we take the books and the stuff that says why you shouldn't be feeling fucking awful every day because a revolution really is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just making a pitch here. The basket should go around. Could you donate to Revolution Books tonight so that we can continue this work? That we can continue to go out among the people and bring the new communism, that we can be part of bringing about a truly better world. And half of what you donate tonight will, of course, go to the international campaign to free Iran's political prisoners. So please. So as you're digging deeply into your pockets, oh, also I wanted to let you know, because I know some of you are digital, that Jina in the back has a way you can donate with her on the square. So if you didn't bring any cash, that's no excuse. So anyway, so our next, I'm going to play something by Toumaj. Does everybody know? Probably not who Toumaj is, okay? So, yeah, there he is. Toumaj is a rapper. He's a revolutionary rapper in Iran. And he's done many revolutionary songs. He participated in the first days of the Jina Uprising out on the streets with others. And he has been arrested and imprisoned and tortured since October of last year. And we have cards here that are about him and his case, Free Toumaj. So everybody should pick them up. And I should mention there are tables outside. There are tables outside with literature. We'd like people to stick around after the poets to meet the poets, meet the staff, meet each other. We need to build a revolutionary community of thinking humans. So anyway, here is Toumaj's piece called Shalag, the Whip.
با این نسل نمیتونید در بیافتید. این نسل یه نسل شیک، یه نسل تیز، یه نسل تازه. نمیرقصه با سازی، با ساز ما نمیسازه. نسلی که جواب سلام فرماندتم نداده به شما، بی اراده میگم به اونا نسل کامل. زن اومدیم کنارم، این یه اختاریه داره. گشت ارشادتون گیره پشت ترافیک ماه. بفرست چیره خورد اینجا هزار بی نقابه. کف خیابونیم ولی ببین صدا میره تا به شیراز تا ناشناسی که اعلامیه داد این بار موی آزاد میرقصه توی بازی باد قانونی که پا میذاره رو تو بذار زیر پاد با اختیار زندگی کن بگو هجابی هجاب هجابی هجاب 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 هجابی هجاب هجابی هجاب 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 هجابی هجاب با اختیار زندگی کن بگو هجابی هجاب هجابی هجاب 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 هجابی هجاب اونه که دستت حقی ران بختش پس بدی موی آزاد بیدرخشه دی که تمام دوران بردگی تاوان آره ولی باشه میدیم میسوزیم ولی ستاره میشیم نه قانون و نه آیه دین آزادی رو توی تاله دیم هجابی هجاب 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 هجابی هجاب هجابی هجاب 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 هجابی هجاب یه نسل شیک یه نسل تیز یه نسل تازه نمیرقصه با سازی با سازمان نمیسازه هجابی هجاب هجابی هجاب هجابی هجاب هجابی هجاب هجابی هجاب حق ما از زندگی این تو سری نیست دیگه به زور نمیرم زیر این رو سری هیست آهای دشمنای 40 ساله مردم ایران دیگه وقتشه بفهمینی زرموندنی نیست به قول شیرزن گرگانی تو این لچک و این قوانین ارگانی موامم شلاق میشن تو صورت تالا خوددانی عربده بکش جربه خودتو برام اسلحه بکش من ته جهنم و میخوام بدون شما تو هم اسم تو بنویس بالا سردر بهش تو کی هستی جانی یه مزدور سپاهی یه بسیجی مخلصی که نزدیک پایانی خیلی دوست داری که منو خاک کنی از ترس ولی خواب میبینی میشم واسه کابوس هر شب این اجباری که رو سرمه اسلحه شده حالا عشق تو بخون بر از زانوی بدبخت هجابی هجاب هجابی هجاب 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 هجابی هجاب هجابی هجاب 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 هجابی هجاب هجابی هجاب هجابی هجاب
Free Toumage. I should mention that the IEC website that you're looking at now, part of the work they do is to actually translate different articles and artistic pieces coming out of Iran or Colombia. So you can go see them on their website. So we have a few more poets. Nobody's tired, right? No. All right. So I would like to introduce Talbert Small. Yeah. Dr. Small. If you don't know, Dr. Small was the Black Panther Party's doctor. He's been a people's doctor since the early days of the Black Panther Party. His book of poetry, Resistencia, Love, Healing, was published in August 2023, and we have to get copies, right? I wanted to say, too, there are poetry books on this front table you might all be interested in. But let's please give another warm welcome to Dr. Small.
First, I'd like to thank Revolutionary Books for gathering us good people together. The purpose of good people is to make bad people uncomfortable.
Woo!
The purpose of good people is to resist the enemies of the sun, those who bring poverty, racism, imperialism, colonialism, and torture to our people. So we must resist to the last drop of our blood. The first poem, I'll try to keep this short. The first poem I'm going to read is called Resistencia. You may poison our wells. We will resist. You may break our bones. Resist we must. You may bulldoze our homes. We will resist. We will resist to the last drop of our blood. Once the seeds of freedom have been planted in blood, the winds of freedom will blow these seeds into your wicked heart. You may throw our bones into a barren desert. They will sprout forth a beautiful rose whose vines will strangle the enemies of the sun, those who plunder, rape, and murder. We must professionally oppose the enemies of the sun. And once again, I'd like to thank Revolutionary Books for getting us together. When I first came out here in 1968, one of the joys I had was walking down Telegraph Avenue and reading Revolutionary Books. going into their store. I recently saw on Facebook that children down 60 feet in the ground mining cobalt in coltan. 3/4 of all the cobalt in the world comes from the Congo. There are 21 corporations, 19 of them by the People's Republic of China, who are exploiting the kids there. Children are working 12 hours a day for $1 a day, and that is why they killed Lumumba. The next poem I'm going to read is called Lumumba. The Congolese elected the man of the people. Congo for the Congolese, diamonds for the people, crumbs for the colonists. The people will eat the fruit from their trees, no longer arms cut off for rubber, no longer butchered by the Belgians. Evil demons cut our men down, tortured him while alive, dismembered his body, and burnt the parts. But his spirit will rise up from the ashes to break the chains of slavery and free his people. Everybody, long live the spirit of Lumumba.
Long live the spirit of Lumumba.
Long live the spirit of Lumumba. Yeah. We're quite honored here to have David Hilliard here, the Chief of Staff of the Black Panther Party. Stand up, David. Under David and Bobby Seale's leadership, they went from 20 people to 5,000, and from one chapter to 65 chapters, selling 200,000 in newspapers throughout the world. Now we see why J. Edgar Hoover had to fight, had to destroy them. Anyway, I think I'll read this last poem called The Spirit of the Panther. Today the panther sleeps, but one day the spirit of the panther will rise again. The spirit of the panther will rise when there are no homeless on our streets, when health care becomes a right, not a privilege, when quality education is available for all. The spirit of the panther will rise when we spend more money on education than on prisons, when police truly serve and protect, when our children will no longer die in wars fought for oil and greed. The spirit of the panther will rise when no child wakes up or falls asleep with hungry pains, when children no longer kill children in our mean streets, when our society creates the new man. The spirit of the panther will rise when race, color, and sex no longer matters, when corporations no longer serve as puppet masters, when our government becomes of the people, by the people, and for the people. But now the panther sleeps, but she will not sleep forever. One day she will arise from the grave to walk these mean streets. Beware. Long live the spirit of the panther. Thank you, and thank you, Revolutionary Books.
Thank you, thank you. And we're here to wake up that panther, right? So I wanted to invite Larry Felsen up to the mic. Larry Felsen, who helped organize and discuss and conceived of this event. He's a writer, social justice activist, and his most recent poetry collection is Dawn Out of Order.
Okay. That was powerful to follow that, but I'm going to try. Okay. Well, if they can do it, we can do it. Yes, right. Holding the body of the sparrow. This is in memory of Nika Shakarami and Kodomor Leje, murdered in 2022 for singing and dancing in solidarity with the uprising of the Iranian people. Between the sparrow smashing into the kitchen window and the hour-by-hour high-definition polychromatic carnage of body and soul, wave after wave of suffering and sorrow rising on the midnight ocean inside. Like morning will never come again. Hope? Hope is the beak of the bird piercing your heart, the blood flowing into your gut, the flowing, conjuring, singing, and dancing, and visions of emancipation. How is it that holding the bird's warm body and staring into its eyes as it dies enrages the morning light with the spirit of revolt? Woman, life, freedom. And this, okay, so this is an attempt at writing something in relationship to what's going on. And, I mean, it's my, so it's, the irises are blooming, and it comes with it a subtitle which is called "Something Terrible or Something Truly Emancipating," which is from a very important piece by Bob Avakian. I'm using it as a question mark. Something terrible or something truly emancipating? I don't know if this poem lives up to that. The irises are blooming. It's on the anniversary of the Mahsa Jina Uprising. Mahsa Jina Amini Uprising, sorry. And the courageous uprising of the prisoners in Iran. The irises are blooming, and I am grieving. The fruit trees are bearing fruit, but I am sad. The blossoms, apples, and peaches are struggling to survive in the storm. The furious wind is ripping through the trees. The heat, and the rain, all across the planet challenge the viability of every inch of soil, air, and waterway, question the existence of every creature, big and small, amoeba, fungi, virus, flea, whale, Homo sapiens, a gigantic aging sea turtle sleeping on the hot ocean floor, a raven lost in a sudden deluge. This is to take issue with this whole system of slaughter of nature and beauty. Is there anything living in this biosphere that is not dying from the horror of the journey of human avarice to this precipice of self-destruction? They are not throwing dice. This is by design. This isn't belief versus disbelief. This is the real. It is no secret that the subjugation of innocence is the modus operandi of the wizards and sages of our civilization, of abundance, scarcity, barbarity, profit, and death. Yet the heart refuses to mourn and looks deep beyond the downpour, digs out the roots of rot, plants the seeds of the future revolution. The irises are blooming, the trees are bearing fruit, the head of the turtle is rising above the ravaging waves, and the raven is soaring into the light.
So, seems like a good time to announce that Revolution Books' next event is here Wednesday, September 27, 7 p.m., and it's called Capitalism, Imperialism is Destroying the Planet. Only revolution gives humanity a real chance to save it. We invite you back for that presentation and discussion. I would like to welcome Armen Davoudian. He's a poet and translator from Isfahan in Iran, and his book, The Palace of 40 Pillars, will be published in March of 2024. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm honored to be part of this event at Revolutionary Books. I'm going to read a translation I did of a poem by the Iranian poet Fatemeh Shams, who lives in exile in Philadelphia. It's called Headscarf. Around our throats, tight like a chain, this headscarf. In our hands, loaded like a gun, this headscarf. Each strand of our hair can stoke a revolution, burn this symbol of our pain, this headscarf. It isn't Islam, but a fabrication, lies and an empty refrain, this headscarf. Deprivation and dependency, the soul's opiate. It rots the brain, this headscarf. We stand by our sister's blood, a battle flag lifted against her killer's reign, this headscarf. And I'm going to read one more poem. One of my own in the same form, which is known as a ghazal in Persian. It has the pattern of rhymes and repetitions. And this is about an encounter my mother and I had with the morality police when I was a kid. And it's called Vice Squad. When the black van pulled over, my hand was in yours. They thought I was your lover. My hand was in yours. When she yanked up your headscarf, when you fell to the ground, when the lights loomed above her, my hand was in yours. When they marched us here, when we crossed or drowned in your namesake river, my hand was in yours. A grown man, my son, binamus, haram, lest the faithful discover, my hand was in yours. When old Jolfa was burning and drunk on fear, we're still hungover, my hand was in yours. You were the wife of Lot, I was the salt of your body. Though I'm not a believer, my hand was in yours. Blood releases blood. Let our gravestones crumble so they can uncover, my hand was in yours. Thank you.
That was beautiful. The Poet Laureate of Oakland, Ayodele Nzinga, could not come tonight because she's very ill. Or not very ill, but ill. I said, don't come, get better. Rafael Jesus Gonzalez. We know him. We welcome him back to Revolution Books. He is the Poet Laureate of Berkeley, the author of many books. His most recent book of poetry is The Lunatic Muse. Yes. And we have some of his other books of poetry on the front table here.
Thank you. I was born and raised right on the Mexican-US border. So consequently, most of my poems are written in the two languages. Thank you. El cabello de la mujer. A Jina, Mahsa, Amini. El cabello de las mujeres, rizado como lana fina marina, o como el zarcillo de la parra, ondulado como las ondas de un estanque, o lacio como la crin de un caballo, no debe ser visto en público. Dicen los hombres que gobiernan, porque dicen que incita la lujuria de los hombres, según su idea tóxica patriarcal. Pero la opresión engendra rebelión. Y tu corazón estalló con necesidad de libertad, de dejar el sol calentar tu pelo suelto para que el viento lo peinara, la luna lo acariciara. Por este simple acto te tomaron, te encarcelaron, te golpearon y moriste. Pero tu muerte fue chispa que encendió las llamas, la yesca de las vidas recortadas de las mujeres, y ellas tomaron a las calles por el mundo entero. En pie, hermanas, por la mujer, la vida, libertad. Y nosotros, tus hermanos, estamos con ustedes porque nadie es libre si las mujeres no la son. The hair of women, for Jina, Mahsa, Amini. The hair of women, tightly curled as fine merino wool, or loosely like the vine's tendril, or wavy like the ripples in a pond, or straight as a horse's mane, must not be seen in public, say the men who rule, because they say that it incites men's lust according to their idea of God, toxic and patriarchal. But oppression breeds rebellion, and your heart bursts with need of freedom, to let the sun warm your hair, let loose for the wind to comb it, the moon caress it. For the simple act, you were taken, imprisoned, beaten, and you died. But your death was a spark that set aflame the tinder of women's curtailed lives, and they took to the streets worldwide. Stand, sisters, for the woman, life, freedom. And we, your brothers, stand with you, because no one is free unless women are.
Thank you. I'm going to do this one. Okay, so that is our poetry for the evening, but I have one more thing. And I also want to invite you all. We have some friends who have brought food. So there is food out there. And I wanted to invite you all to meet each other. Talk to somebody you don't know. Grow our community, right, of revolution. So this is an excerpt by I think I talked about them at the very beginning, the Communist Party of Iran, Marxist-Leninist Maoists. And it's a statement that they made for this anniversary. It's an excerpt of that. And it's entitled, Revolution Nothing Less for Iran and Everywhere. A year ago, the murder of Jina Amini at the hands of the hated morality police in Tehran triggered a beautiful uprising of the people in Iran against the Islamic Republic of Iran, the IRI. Women's daring acts of burning the hijab and their resounding cry of down with the Islamic Republic unleashed an unprecedented uprising throughout the whole country, calling forth struggle against national oppression discrimination against LGBTQ plus people, and far more. The uprising electrified the world. Despite the vicious repression that followed and the temporary ebb in the struggle, this uprising that shook the Iranian regime to its foundations illustrates a critical fact about today's world. Humanity is living through unprecedented times. The existing world order is being ripped apart. Millions of migrants are being driven across borders everywhere. Environmental catastrophe looms over the planet. The specter of nuclear war is rising in Ukraine, and the Western democracies are increasingly giving rise to fascist forces that are tearing at the normal ways society is being run, threatening a more naked and far more repressive form of rule. The cry for freedom has been on the lips of millions in Iran. But the burning question is, will this be freedom for the oppressed to seize on the turmoil that is tearing apart the old order, to make revolution, to overthrow the regime along with all relations of oppression and exploitation, and replace it with something much better? Or will exploiters and oppressors be free in one form or another, either to continue the old regime or continue the same conditions of oppression and exploitation with new faces at the top? And later, all this means that the revolution we need in Iran can only be a communist revolution. The first step in this revolution is to overthrow the IRI and establish a new socialist republic in order to start uprooting this capitalist exploitation and oppression. But this revolution is an integral part of a world revolution, because we are all woven together by this world capitalist system. And either we are all emancipated or nobody will be. Thank you.